Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to chat with Elona Lopari. And let me tell you about Elona. She is a visionary CEO of the Life School, a speaker, a best-selling author of many books. She's a show and speaking events organizer to an audience of over 30,000 heart-driven, service-based entrepreneurs and corporations. She is both a servant community builder and a people connector. She is a prior Fortune 500 CEO, also featured in Disrupt, New York Weekly, Business Insider, and CEO Weekly. The Business News and Famous Times is also one of her many accolades. She is the CEO of the Life School, where she helps visionary leaders, CEOs, grow legacy, purpose-driven businesses through inner alignment, branding, marketing, sales, and team, so that they can maximize their impact and income to do more good work in the world. So we're going to talk about something that she likes to talk about, which is 7 foundational pillars to purpose-driven visionary leadership. Don't we need those? Please join me in welcoming my guest, Elona Lopari. Elona, such a good topic to have today.
Thank you so much, Vicki.
You're very welcome. You and I are aligned in a lot of ways. I think of myself as a connector rather than an influencer, and obviously, my goal is to really help female entrepreneurs as well as male entrepreneurs become more heart-centered leaders, and having a purpose-driven vision is, I think, so important and impactful and needed in our world that we live in today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the same realizations through my life, personal, professional journey, where it's really important to understand how to be clear on the purpose behind the work that we do, and so that it fuels us, so that it's important work, so that we could be the best at that and also be able to create impact for others. But just like anything, we have to understand how that's connected to our gifts, talents, experiences, so that it can be sustainable, and then we can continue to grow towards that vision. And then the byproduct is always usually the effect or the impact that we have on others.
So very true. So before we get going into the heart of all of this, I always ask 2 simple first questions. The first question is just letting everybody know, where do you call home? Where do you live? And the second would be just share your journey that's taken you from that young woman to now this very successful business leader.
Thank you for that. I'm based out of New York, been here 27 years, and that's actually where my journey begins. Well, before that, but I think just me realizing some of the most meaningful moments that led me here are pretty much my origin story, where we migrated here to the US from a small country in Europe called Albania. So I was the oldest of the 3, my siblings. And just those early struggles of just seeing my parents, struggle, settle in a new country, no language, no connections, pretty much starting over from experience. I always say, I don't think we ever start from zero. So I grew up very fast. Started my first jobs. I pretty much became the third parent in the home. A lot of the income I was making based on those couple early jobs, I was able to contribute towards the family, and that kind of grew me up very fast, so to speak. And then the other thing was pretty much what, society, or I guess my parents always instilled in me, especially my dad, that the pretty much the typical route of how to be successful and get the American dream, meaning you get a degree, you get a good job, a great career, you build a family, and then you live happily ever after. So that's kind of, I never questioned it. So that was my path. And I graduated business management and finance, and then I climbed the corporate ladder. I happened to be in a Fortune 500 company that was actually in growth mode. So I was able to do many roles. I kept getting promoted every couple of years. So I did many roles with them: HR, marketing, sales. Executive leader was my latest one, until I really saw over the years how, unfortunately, the culture and where the company was going as they were acquired by another company turned very toxic. We're all seen as a number. I no longer felt connected to the work I was doing. So that's kind of where I started looking for other things that I needed to do. Meanwhile, I started hearing an inner voice that there was something else that I needed to look at. However, I kind of just ignored it for a while because, again, I didn't know how to even listen to anything like that. I just thought, okay, this is what it is. And that's kind of where I started to get introduced to a new world of entrepreneurship, and pretty much thinking that, okay, I could take a lot of the skills and experience I already have, and rather than go and work for another company and with another 9 to 5, it just felt like I've already been there, done that. Let me try entrepreneurship. So it's kind of how I ventured as an entrepreneur. Did some leadership executive coaching because that was the most comfortable, and I knew that world really well, with a very niched audience, which was women leaders. And then I wanted to move into more outside of the corporate space. So I did some career coaching, just utilizing my HR experience. I still felt like that was not still everything that I wanted to do. And then over the years, as I've also built my own successful business, and also utilizing a lot of skills that I had learned from corporate, where I pretty much grew their region, because I was a regional director with a team of over 3,000 people. I discovered that actually, out of everything that I knew, leadership and business growth was one of those things that I really was the best at out of everything that I do. So now, kind of pairing purpose with profit, that's pretty much what I do. I help companies scale their purpose and profits, because for so long we've seen it the other way, where companies were solely focused on profits, and pretty much flipping that equation, where the clearer the purpose is, the more we can align our profits. So that's kind of the day-to-day work that now fulfills me and fuels me every day. And I find that it's my mission. It's the purpose behind why I do what I do, and then seeing the impact when the companies that I support are able to now serve more clients and create their own impact. That way I get to multiply the impact, and overall pretty much do more good in the world through the channel of entrepreneurship.
Very good. And, it is so often the case that, we get to some point and we see that there is such a disconnect, that, that what was once important is replaced by just trying to meet Wall Street's dictates, and the so many of the people that are making it happen don't feel a connection to the vision, to the mission, to the purpose. They're just trying to make the numbers, and oftentimes that isn't fulfilling. That isn't what's going to retain them. So in your journey, do you often see that one of the pains and the problems is that people are leaving those companies, good people, they're losing good people too?
Yeah, one of the main pain points is always losing top talent, just like a company lost me once upon a time. I think it's important. We live in a different world, right? And now there's so much more information. People are, we're done a lot of personal development. There's a lot of, information out there. So most of us are really going within, figuring out, okay, what do I want to do, right? And challenging status quos and challenging programming from society. So I think once you kind of dive into that work, discover, align with your own values and what you want to create in your life, once that work happens, then the byproduct is usually, obviously, we now are looking for company. We're more clear as employees, so to speak, if we're to look at it from that perspective. We're much more clear around the kind of positions that align with us, whether you're entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur, because those are usually the two routes that we can go on that far, unless a third one's is going to get created. That's kind of what I foresee in the very near future. But for now, kind of it's what it is. So we have more clarity. And when you have more clarity, you know what you're looking for. So those environments, traditional cultures where it was more like top to bottom. Everybody kind of stayed in the same position for many years. Those are no longer the reality of our current work culture. So as leaders, we also would, need to adapt to be able to, create those cultures based on what is needed. But that's not really only necessary on the team end, but also on the client end, right? Because even our clients are more educated, they're also they have a lot more clarity. There's a lot more people offering things that we are offering. So, how do you create a brand, a culture, contribute towards something bigger than just your products or services? So just looking at it from the macro level, a lot of the different dynamics are playing so that, it's the leader is always the person that's always working on their awareness and consciousness. Because in my book I wrote, that's actually one of the pillars. The more you grow as in your consciousness as a leader, the more you get to make those conscious decisions, and then you're able to instill those values inside your company as well.
A couple of things come to mind as you were talking about that. The first thing was that, a lot of times, and I retired in 2018, and so I was a project lead and had huge projects, and you were always going. You really didn't have time to reflect. You could be frustrated, but you just didn't really take time to think about what's your purpose, and and is this company fulfilling that for me? Is it aligned to my core values and to the company's? So why don't you go through what the 7 fundamental pillars are, and then we can have a little bit more discussion on how important each of those are, not only for the leadership, but in understanding that the team that is supporting the leadership, because people are getting smart. They aren't buying just products and service. They're buying the company, the people that make up that company. And if you don't invest in your people so that they are having an understanding of the vision, then you're going to have a hard time meeting the needs of your customer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, back to what you were saying, Vicki, I mean, we have stopped, right? And maybe COVID has done a thing for society, or individually through our pain, through life, we're kind of realizing, wait, there's more to life than kind of how we've been programmed. And it goes all the way back to our education, right? How we even are trained to, to be able to get groomed for a certain role and then never question that. That's pretty much what I did for 13 years. So it's like, hey, I guess this is my path, and I'll just, keep going and go through the hamster wheel, which I had a lot of, repercussions because of that, from burnout and anxiety and all of that. But yeah, I think more the awareness is out there, education's out there, information's out there. So now people understand what they're going through. When I went through all of that, I'm like, what's happening?
Is there something wrong with
me? Dots, right? I'm like, what is going on, right? So I think great that information is out there, because again, the more we understand something, the more we don't get scared by that, and we know how to actually navigate that. But just to dive into the pillars quickly, what I've seen in my experience are things that are necessary to be able to at least, stay aware around or have that awareness around for the leaders and the team and their clients or their communities, so to speak, is the whole, era of conscious leadership. So working on yourself, you said it so beautifully, investing in our teams. It's always so easy for us to be able to invest in others, right? And to be able to give to others. But in order for that to happen, we need to invest in ourselves, in our level of awareness, our level of education, our level of the right tools, the right strategies, the right mentors, the right things that we need to know to be able to level up our company to the next level. So that would be the first pillar, conscious leadership. And that feeds into the next one, which is obviously a conscious culture, because again, the more that you bring this awareness onto the table and you understand that it's not only the physical results that make up the results of your company, because for the longest it was always only the strategy, right? Always like only the numbers, the black and white kind of results that we're able to see, but there's so much more into the way that we can lead our teams inside our cultures. So that would be the second one. The third one is, again, aligning purpose with profit and putting purpose first. So kind of flipping the equation pretty much on the other side and understanding how much more abundant a company can be and how much more of a legacy a company can build as we kind of realign our priorities with that as well. The fourth one is innovation and creativity, how to create a culture that innovation and creativity are kind of just, at the backbones of kind of how we do business. Because again, with the age of AI and everything that we're doing and where we're heading, creativity is one of those things that as humans, we always have unlimited or abundant abilities to be able to access, and through there, it's where change happens. So that would be the fourth one. The fifth one is strategy and growth. Understanding again how to also marry these two and align both or harmonize both, because again, for the longest time, we were taught how to strategize, numbers, black and white results, but how to also instill the growth mindset in your culture and with your teams, so that we kind of reframe a lot of things that we were taught around maybe failure or not making mistakes, or kind of just staying within the lines of certain roles and responsibilities where there's more room to breathe, more room to test things, to try things, to fall, to get back up, pretty much just like life. So kind of mirror a lot of that in the company as well. And then the future of work, back to kind of what we talked about, how can we grow our culture or make decisions with the end in mind? Where is society going overall? And how is it that we could start to implement a lot of those things now and not wait for, they're actually here? So kind of intuitively utilize our consciousness and innovation to be able to bring some things that are going to be able to help us align with kind of where we're heading as society overall. And then the last one is, of course, leaving a positive legacy, always thinking, long term, what is the purpose of my company? What am I here to do, right? How do I create impact with the things that I'm doing? So always, thinking and operating in that long-term mindset, so that the decisions that we're making today, they're actually aligned with where we're trying to go tomorrow. And everything feels like we're heading towards the right direction, and everybody can feel part of that as well, so that you can create this inclusive, diverse team culture that's going to make you go further, faster, for sure. So those are some of the fundamentals that I aligned inside my book as well.
And I think, what you just were last talking about is really important. I remember, oh gosh, probably 18 years ago, I worked on a strategic plan, and it touched a little bit on culture, but it was more focused on the financial piece of it. What are we going to do to make the dollars, the revenue, and that's important. I mean, to exist, to be relevant, but it didn't think about the what ifs, if you will, in the strategy, and what if I don't develop the people that I have here, and I'm constantly churning that? So how does that impact the vision? how does that impact us being able to get to that next piece? What do we want to look like in 5 years or 10 years? And sometimes it's totally different than where you are today. And in some ways it should be, right? But I think that, maybe your last pillar should be the first one, because it truly is a building, reverse engineering, if you will, to get to where we want to be. So what you talk about, connecting the dots backwards towards ultimate vision. And so, that's what I was trying to stumble onto right there. But why don't you explain a little bit more about the connecting the dots backwards?
Yeah, that was actually the title of my first book, and it just is a main theme around my personal life as well, and my professional life, and also kind of, the journey of how I've also made decisions and kind of what I've seen through my experience. So when we talk about purpose, it's always something in the future when we're visionaries and we have a vision for where we're trying to go and the legacy that we'd like to leave behind. We don't always obviously have the information of what's going to happen in the future. So it's pretty helpful to look back at our past experience and to look through and reflect on those lessons that we have overcome, those things that have happened to us, those patterns that have showed up for us, those things that maybe keep showing up in the present moment that maybe we need to either heal or take a look at or reframe or whatever the case might be. So that we know what is the right decision now in the present moment, because obviously we only have the present moment to be able to live and operate under. So go into the future to get those reflections, to get those lessons, to kind of connect those dots and, stay away around the patterns, and then build for the future back to the vision that you have. So in a way, if we're able to connect all those different, three main, I guess, dots or pillars in our journey, I have found that that gives you a more holistic view when the day-to-day, decisions get tough, or you have fires to set out, or your motivation level is not there, or you're having a challenge, or you don't feel like what you're doing is really connecting to something bigger, or you just, you lose a sense of purpose. Like, what am I doing? And mostly when people don't have this awareness, it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to stay small. It's so easy to get, really took over, so to speak, by our survival mind and kind of operate in that low level of consciousness and reality. But when you just step back, and it's okay, we'll have those days, we all do. But I have found that when you step back and kind of just connect those dots for yourself, you realize that, wait a minute, what's happening now? I'm sure that I'm going to go back and kind of connect that dot as I get more time or information or awareness or life experience, so that I know that whatever happened now, it's actually it's like a stepping stone to the next thing that I am kind of heading in towards my journey. So it just gives you a lot of perspective, and it helps you look at things at the macro level, where the day-to-day problems seem like, oh my gosh, it's like the worst. It's like the end of the world. Because, we're human and we're going to operate out of the survival brain. But when you have that perspective, at least it gives you room to breathe and to readjust and reframe and reground yourself towards the right priorities.
And I think that's important. That's one of the things I was reflecting on as you were talking, is that, the information that you had when you started was limited and was not impacted by all of the things that are happening today. And so as you become more aware of what's happening today, it is very often times that you do have to pivot, you have to change. I mean, obviously we learned that pretty quickly in 2019 and 2020, but sometimes people are comfortable, and this is my vision, this is what I wrote, this is what I built my company on. But how do you move that to that mindset that says it's okay, just let it go, and believe that there's another route, another path for you to take that's going to get you to ultimately what the core values of that vision might have been. The picture might change, but the purpose is still there.
Yeah, and that's actually the work, the hardest thing, right? Easier said than done when you
Yes.
go through something and you kind of have to exercise your muscle of patience. But what I've learned, Vicki, is that nothing is ever wasted. Even the things that I thought, maybe I'm working towards the wrong direction, it was there to teach me something, and I was able to utilize that and improve something after. So nothing is ever wasted if we just focus more on the being side of rather than doing. Speaking of some of those things that was some of the inner work that I've also had to do, because I was so much in the doing because of, how the environment that I operated in and kind of what my day-to-day looked like. But when you understand that there's, new disciplines and new things that you can do to be able to be more in the being, that's actually when you get your most brilliant ideas, your most inspired action in your business or in your company, or pivoting or change of direction. But now that information doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within, because you feel intuitively, aligned with a new direction, and you then learn through tools and different principles or disciplines to be able to go access that every time you need that. But space is necessary and patience is necessary. And just, if it's not your timing, and I used to like push, pressure myself. I'm like, this, I gotta I gotta do it. This is the goal that I set for myself. I realized that all I was doing is really closing myself towards the things that I wanted to do. So there's definitely a better way to do things, but if we just look at things as a journey rather than like the direct result or the direct thing that we're trying to get in for in the moment, we just give ourselves, more room to breathe, and we actually can problem solve and be very much more intentional than trying to problem solve out of survival mode or out of that brain space where you kind of just have such a limited view. But our brain, feels very productive, and it's like, okay, I'm going to figure it out, but you're just still operating under that very limited view. So, taking a step back, if there's no potential solution in sight, just give yourself time. So something will come to you so that you can figure out the next logical step. And all we can do is just continuously improve. I mean, that's kind of all we can do as humans, as a company, right? So I think if we have that mindset and that kind of value for our life, personal and professional, then we will work on the transformation piece, which is something that absolutely can be sustainable, because you grow a lot of skills, you build a lot of muscle memory around things that are important to you. And then, of course, the productivity and the results will just be a byproduct of that as well.
Yeah, and I can't believe how much we are on the same wavelength here, because just before you talked about the narrow view, I was thinking the same thing. We're just looking in this tunnel vision, and we're missing all of the things, the opportunities that could be around us that could impact the success of our business, of our lives. The interesting thing is that a lot of leaders don't want to accept failure or trial and error. But the best things come from that. It's like, well, let's just try this, because you don't have that. It has to be perfect. It has to be right the first time, because really that's not reality. Maybe once in a while you'll get it right, but oftentimes it's like, well, let's tweak this or make that better.
Yeah, and I think the other work there is also ego, right? Not to lead out of ego and make decisions out of ego and all of that. And that's why, that's again, definitely a journey. It's been a journey for me as well. And maybe, depending on, again, our life experience, different from for everyone. But I think if you just go into the service aspect and just, always understand that there's always something for you to learn, and don't attach yourself to the results, don't attach yourselves to your role, don't attach yourself to whatever is it that you're doing. A lot of that, inner work will definitely ensure that you're always growing and you're always learning, and then you're always making those decisions out of a good place. And that energy will absolutely reflect in everything you do. But ego work is absolutely very tough, but
Yeah.
very, very necessary, especially if you want to operate a higher level and you don't want to, be your own chokehold of the growth
Mm-hmm.
you're looking to see personally and professionally as well.
Yeah, I'm doing a talk on emotional intelligence tomorrow, and it's amazing how when we have an idea, we're married to that idea, that we don't open the doors to other people's suggestions because it's my idea. It should be wonderful. And if you input, then it's no longer my idea. But I think, having input from other people is probably one of the best things that can do, because it now gives a broader perspective of is this going to truly meet the needs of the audience, whatever it is that you're doing. And so that goes back to the ego piece again, where you just have to understand that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, that the best things come from that, oftentimes that group thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a thought as you were saying that, Vicki. I think the piece about, I mean, it's all insecurity at the end of the day. When I look at
Yes.
the things that I wanted to kind of portray, or the ego, or like the imposter syndrome, it was all stuff that deep down I thought that, I felt in lack, right? There was somebody better. I was probably trying to compare myself to other people, or like, try to do the compete thing, or be in competition with others. But when you go within and you see other people as uniquely gifted as they are, and in their own individual path, and the universe is very abundant, and all these amazing concepts, which to me seemed very concrete years ago, more like, stuff that, okay, if I can't see it, feel it, touch it, it's not black and white. I don't think it actually is. When you actually kind of shift a lot of your perspective, you realize that it's amazing how much you could do in collaboration, and how
Mm-hmm.
everybody can add so much value to you, and vice versa, and you can co-create together. And yeah, everybody could be aligned towards bigger things, and the results will absolutely be amazing when you're able to do that, rather than try to, hold on to your own knowledge, your own ideas, your own things that yeah, that's definitely not a way to grow. But inner work, ego work is necessary to be able to scale and get out of your own way, so to speak. But it's so worth it though, because at that point you're free. There's nothing
Yeah.
to hold on to, and you don't need to, put anything. It's you're authentic. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing that's really important, right?
Yeah,
Authenticity.
that's
And
right.
when you are living out of that, it's definitely going to come through, and you will connect better with your team. You'll connect better with your clients. You'll connect better with your audiences. But unless that's happening, then, are you really the person that you're actually portraying? It's so hard to live with that. I always
Yeah.
imagine it must be such a burden to
Mm-hmm.
be able to, live out of those spaces. But if you just let it go and just be yourself, and always learn, grow, and continuously improve, then you're so much freer. Life is, fun, and every day you're learning. You're a curious child every day. There's always something
Nice.
new to learn, and just, feeding that piece, that part of us. I've learned that it's absolutely amazing to be able to operate out of that. And every time we want to go back on the other end, try to, have our practices and things that we have developed to be able to feed this side and continuously grow and collaborate better that way as well.
Fantastic. So in these last couple of minutes before we go to the slide with your contact information, will you run through those 7 pillars one more time?
Sure. So the first pillar is conscious leadership. The second one is conscious culture. The third one is purpose and profit alignment. Fourth one is innovation and creativity. Fifth one is strategy and growth. Sixth one is the future of work. And then the seventh pillar is the positive legacy that we leave behind.
So awesome. All right. So if you have enjoyed this conversation that I've had with Elona as much as I have, you're going to want to connect with her at least to see what she has out on social media, as well as her website, maybe pick up her book. So I'm going to share, as I always do, my contact information for Elona. And if you are just listening, I will read the information, but you can find everything in findyourleadershipconfidence.com, my website, or go to my YouTube channel, which is Vicki Noethling. So please subscribe. So again, those that are just listening, the website is Elona Lopari Coaching. I'll get it. Elona Lopari Coaching.com. Facebook is Elona Pari Coaching. LinkedIn is Elona-Pari. Instagram is Elona Pari Coaching. And YouTube, the same. Twitter is her first and last name, so Elona Lopari. I'm going to have Elona talk to you about things that you'll find on her website, some resources, some free marketing checklist and other things, and also talk a little bit about one or two of her books that she has out there. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Elona, to share all the information and where you spend the most time in the social media world.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vicki. I'd love to invite everyone to at least connect. I love podcasts because at least we start the conversation and, look for other ways to be able to support one another and collaborate, back to kind of what we're talking about today. So on my website, I have 3 helpful resources. If you're looking for a free marketing checklist for your company to be able to look at some of the gaps that you might be experiencing with that piece, there's a free checklist on the website. And then I have a free masterclass where I have connected, speaking of the dots, between your branding, marketing, sales systems, and team. You'll be able to get like the roadmap so that you can then self-assess where some of your gaps that you might be experiencing in the things that might be getting your way to create consistent income or to be able to scale your purpose and profits. And then the third one is a free ebook that I very dearly created, which is pretty much the 50 most intentional questions that have helped me navigate some of those inner things that we talked about today, so that you can stay aligned with your purpose, but also create magic and create impact for others with that. So the free book will also be on the website. And yeah, that's what you will find if you visit the website, elonaloparicoaching.com.
Excellent. Well, Elona, thank you so much for being such an awesome guest today. You shared a lot of great stories, great information to be very helpful. And I hope all of you will go out and connect with her either in social media or get her book or just take advantage of those wonderful free things that she has on the website. So Elona, thank you so much.
Vicki, thank you so much for creating such a beautiful space. And I hope the audience walked away with some value from our conversation today.
Oh, I'm sure they did. And as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.